Hi, my name is Susan Downey, and since we're in a coffee shop, here is a coffee poem. A friend of mine in South Dakota has a writers group, and she has put me on her email list, and this is one of the writing prompts she put out to her members, and I took her up on it. She wrote, the following is a description of Costa Rica terrazzo coffee I found on a coffee package. Try writing a poem using these words. And here is a description of the coffee. Harvested from high in the mountains of Costa Rica, surrounding the Terrazzo River, our coffee comes from one of the finest growing regions in the world. Our full-bodied coffee features deep flavors, smoky undertones, and hints of chocolate. Perfect for the morning or any time of day. Elegant and bright with a clean finish. And so I took her up on the challenge, and here is my poem about this. Terrazzo Break. With my morning coffee sits a full-bodied harvester with hints of chocolate in his eyes. The deep flavors of his voice filter through smoky undertones, and he is perfect for any time of day. To be high in the mountains of Costa Rica, surrounded by the finest growing coffee along the bright, clean Terrazzo River. Sidewalk Poetry has been around now for 6 years, and I've entered poems 4 of those 6 years. And this year I was one of 5 winners, which is really exciting. Now, first of all, I'm going to read 3 haiku poems, similar to what I would have entered in the contest, and then I'm going to read my winning entry. And haiku has a pattern. The pattern I follow is 5 beats in the first line, 7 beats in the second line, and again 5 beats in the third line. And these are all about the cats that live at my house. Ollie. Yellow, furry cat, curled up in my lap, purring, warm symbiosis. This is about my cat Soot. The title is Black Halloween Cat. You're not so scary. Stretched out here along my side, afternoon nap time. My daughter has been working overseas, and when she came home last spring to visit, she brought along something for my husband and me. The title of this poem is Bulgarian Refugee, and you can picture a tiny little black and white kitty here. Tiny street kitty, rescued, now American. Terror to bare toes. Those are the 3 cats in our house. Now, here is my winning sidewalk poem. It's not haiku, but it is short. And I guess as I read the cat poems, I should have said in Saint Paul, the sidewalk poetry is when they pour and repair fresh sidewalks. They have a form that they make with the words in it backwards. I've seen a form, and then when you press it down into the fresh cement, you get the words imprinted in the sidewalk, and it dries. So there are parts of St. Paul where you can walk along and you can see the poems, you can step on the poems, read the poems. It's really fun. If you go to the website or just type in Sidewalk Poetry, information about this comes up, and you can find the location for the poems that they've featured the last 6 years, and there are many poems, and each poem has more than one location. Another thing I like about the contest is that you see only the poem on the sidewalk. You don't see the name of the person who wrote it. And this is to focus the reader's attention on the poem. You know, what is this person saying? You don't know anything about the one who wrote it, so you can really focus just on the poem. So, if you imagine walking along, you might see my poem, and this is what it says. It is not carelessness to leave a poem lying around. I'm going to read it one more time. It is not carelessness to leave a poem lying around. Well, I was a first grade teacher, and I ended up being a reading tutor in the junior high schools in Saint Paul. And so I'm going to read a poem thinking of young people in poetry, and of course junior high. When you get to know those kids, and I've had my kids go through that stage, you just don't know what's going to turn them on. We tried in the library where I hung out using, magnetic poetry with the words chopped up, and that was really fun. But April is National Poetry Month, and I wrote a poem then to use with my students. This is a poem about poetry. And you can imagine 8th grade boy. I don't like it. Who'd want to write it? Poetry is about love and stuff, not for guys who are big and tough. Or people write about flower and trees. Spare me the pain of reading it, please. Poems are found in some dusty old book, because no one wants to take a look. You say, I just wrote a poem. My friends will laugh. Oh no, groan, groan. But wait a minute, this was fun. I think I'll write another one. Because it's November and we're approaching Veterans Day, I'm going to read this one I pulled out this morning. My husband and I were in Washington, D.C. visiting a friend of mine and her husband, and we went to visit her son, and this is their son, and this is the name of the poem. I wrote it October 23rd, 2011. Visiting a young man at Arlington National Cemetery. Row after row after row of white slates stand solemn in the sun. A name of our nation's son or daughter carefully written on each one. Upon Tom's gravestone, I place a rosebud, which will never show full bloom, in remembrance of a young man whose life passed away too soon. Countless veterans lie in churchyards, and some are overseas, they slumber still, as do all the heroes of Arlington, majestic cemetery on a hill. We just had an overseas visitor, a young woman from Serbia, and she likes to cook. And I was really nervous about thinking, oh, I really should invite her over for a meal, but I didn't know what to fix for her. But then she solved the problem. She said, I would really like to learn about Minnesota hot dish. She said, I've heard that you call them casseroles too, but in Minnesota you call them hot dish. So I said, why don't we have a hot dish tasting? And that's what we did. And the 4 dishes that my husband and I fixed were, of course, tater tot hot dish, the green bean casserole or hot dish that you usually find on Thanksgiving tables. My mother's special mac and cheese dish with extra things added that she'd whip up for my kids that they really like. So that's Grandma Edna's special mac and cheese. And then a recipe we got for my brother and his wife who live in Texas. It's called the King Ranch Chicken Hot Dish. But I didn't make poems about them, but I did make a poem about Minnesota hot dish. There's no time to shop, but it's time for supper. Time to stop being the family picker-upper. Soon my husband and kids will be in from the weather, ready to slow down and have a nice meal together. But what should I fix? Chop, steam, stir, fry, or bake? Got store cookies for dessert. No time to make a chocolate cake. But that can opener can help me find a way. Just a quick look around. Cream of soup saves the day. First, thaw tater tots, brown onions and ground beef. Grab cream of celery or mushroom. I can feel the relief. Good, the oven is hot. Layer all in a pan, and it's ready to bake. Will we eat soon? Yes, we can. Add a fresh green salad, and I've got my wish. My family is fed with a delicious hot dish. And let's see. One more. Some of you probably know about the Minnesota Women's Press. It's been around for a long time. And other than winning the contest, this was my only other paid piece of writing. And I wrote this shortly after my daughter was born. Here's a copy of it. My daughter was just tiny then. It was in 1985. And it's called The Zoo at Our House. During 4 years of marriage, I negotiated with my husband for a pet. A dog, a cat, or even a French lop-eared rabbit. He was willing to compromise on something that cannot walk, hop, or crawl through our front door, something like goldfish. Not exactly what I had in mind to hold and cuddle, take for walks, and give us a few laughs. However, with the arrival of my baby daughter, I discovered that a menagerie of animals now live at our house. I remember our fragile, precious newborn. We would watch her tiny head wobble back and forth on a feeble, scrawny neck, and her mouth open wide and dark, almost obscuring her other features. Bundled in blankets instead of down in twigs and string, she was a hungry baby bird waiting to be fed. Cozy in her fleecy, nubbly sleeper, as she was fed and comforted for nighttime, her demanding cries subsided into soft, drowsy whimpers of la, la. A baby bam bleating out her own version of ba. Laura has been a happy, good-natured baby. Her nighttime cries have vanished, by morning replaced with piercing clarion calls at dawn. Exuberantly, she shrieks and trills her greeting to the sunshine edging in past the shades. We awake to hear our little rooster crowing. Everything goes into her mouth to be tasted and chewed. With a bone in proud possession, loud growls and gurrs slip through clenched jaws. Exertion wrinkles her forehead like a bulldog. But it's only our Laura puppy gumming my finger. Paper napkins and newspapers are shredded. Daddy's ties and mommy's bows are grabbed and quickly moistened. Even table legs and any edges of her crib and playpen, shopping cart, or seatbelt buckle become targets for our billy goat, ready to bite and eat everything within her reach. A new toy to touch, a small friend visiting, or Daddy greeting her after a day at work makes Laura spill over with pleasure and excitement. Squealing with mirth as she sits on the floor, she flaps and slaps her arms against her sides like a penguin. Each day Laura gets more mobile, starting to creak backwards and roll over, grabbing at all objects hanging down out of her high chair or baby walker. So the latest animal we have with us is a monkey. And a monkey that doesn't like bananas either. With Laura, I have enjoyed the glimpses she's brought me of all these animals, and I now have her to hold and cuddle, take for walks, and bring us laughter. Do I need a pet? I confess to a secret plan. As soon as Laura is able, I'm going to enlist her to my side, and we will negotiate from strength in numbers for a pet of our own. Thank you.